The Austin Shoe Hospital video is an iconic favorite among potential clients and trainees alike. In this video, I'm going to deconstruct the project and the video so you can get insights into my approach and then utilize what you've learned on your next project. I'm going to walk you through how I got the particular job, the goals of the video, and how I approached the project. Then I'll do a shot-by-shot deconstruction with my own personal insights into my decision-making process concerning the filming and the editing. But before we do all that, let's take a quick look at the video in its entirety.
I've been fixing shoes since I was 11 years old and started shining shoes in the neighborhood shoe repair shop. Well, I most enjoy the finished product, seeing the joy and the happiness on a person's face when you fix a pair of shoes that they may have had for 5 or 10 years and they feel just like new when they put them on after receiving them from you.
We take a lot of pride in our work. When you leave it with me, our team is going to do whatever it takes and make you happy. Whether it's a $40 pair or a $500 pair of shoes, we're going to put that same pride and hard work into the shoes. We care for them as much as we care for the $1,000 pair of shoes.
I believe you need 3 things to put out a quality job. You need quality materials. We hand grade our own leather. We're directly involved with the tannery, and we make sure our leather and our rubber is top notch. You need teamwork, and you need quality, lifelong craftsmen that care, because it's an art. Someone has to care about it and take personal in order for it to work.
When it's all said and done, a lot of people will really appreciate the quality and the job and the effort that I put into doing what I do. And that's what's most important to me.
We take the most pride in taking a damaged, worn article that someone might have thought was hopeless and making it look basically brand new. And when I give it back to them or mail it back to them, they're absolutely shocked at how good it looks. And this happens day in and day out.
I hope you like the video and that it can be a great source of inspiration on your next shoot. I was fortunate to get the job through collaborating with a strategic partner of mine. My partner, Joey, who happens to be a social media master, was working with the Austin Shoe Hospital on improving their social presence. He explained the power of video to the owner, Carol, and introduced the two of us. When I met Carol, I opened up the conversation to what his pain points were and his specific goals he had for the video. He explained that he wanted to increase the company's online business and have more orders outside of Texas ship into their facilities. After I walked the factory, interacted with the staff, and spoke with Carol in greater detail, I developed a solid approach to the project. Instead of just creating a video on the entire breadth of what the company offered, I took a different approach. I was laser focused on the brand of the Austin Shoe Hospital. Everything they stood for was craftsmanship and pride. So everything I did, from the filming to the interviews and the editing, permeated from that core of their brand and what they stood for. This focus and this major goal of the shoot was to connect prospective customers on a deeper level so that they would have the confidence and trust to send their beloved shoes, boots, or handbags across many states to be repaired by the Austin Shoe Hospital. Now let's take a closer look shot by shot of the Austin Shoe Hospital video so I can give you an even deeper insight into my thought process and decisions that I made when I was creating the video. So now I'm going to walk you through a deconstruct of the video in its entirety. what I'll do is I'll just play a little bit of it, and then we'll kind of go back and I'll walk you through my shot style, why I chose to edit it that way, and any additional insights that I can provide that will help you in understanding my thought process when creating this video. So let's look at the first little intro sequence for initially.
I've been fixing shoes.
Okay, so that's essentially the first little intro sequence, and it was around 12-13 seconds or so. So my primary goal was to really show the variety of different things they do and kind of have nice, close, intimate shots to show the texture and the grittiness of the brand, of the craftsmanship and the pride that they really showcase and do with their work. So the first kind of opening shot, I really like the gritty texture of this, and the way that I composed it is I actually got up really high like on a step stool, and I was shooting straight down with my 50mm, and you can kind of see where they're trimming the edge of the sole there. And the second shot, I did a slider, and I used this other buffing machine as kind of blocking so it would reveal what's going on. And now I've kind of introduced more of the human element of it, where you see more of a person's, you know, hands and stuff while he's buffing it. This third shot, I actually, again, was a little bit higher, and I actually used a 50mm on this one as well, and you can see more of his hands and the way that things, the way that he's rotating it and moving it through the machine to kind of trim off the heel. Then the next shot, again, I was a little bit higher. I used a 50mm, and this is his hair. So what I did was I used that as kind of blockage to kind of push the viewer's eye into the central focus point of what he's doing. And I can tell you, seeing this in person, it's very difficult what he's doing. He's actually carving out a groove that has to be the same space all the way around where he's going to lay the new stitching at. So it was really cool to kind of see this in person. But again, kind of this grittier texture of the different machinery, you know, having the human element in there with his hands, you can see where he's manipulating it and moving it along. Then this next shot, this is actually a little bit more difficult of a shot, but what I wanted to do here was kind of show the boots in focus to say this is what we get and this is what we do. So you can see where I move from side to side, and this one I was using a 50mm as well, and surprisingly enough, it was the Plastic Fantastic. It was a $120 lens that I was using. So what I did was on my slider, I went from one side to another, and then I rack focused, and then you can see he slowly gets into focus right there, and you see the stitching machine. So that's ultimately what I did with this opening sequence of different shots. So I wanted to show a variety of what they do with really close, kind of intimate shots, highlighting that craftsmanship and the pride that they have, doing really dynamic stuff like different creative angles, different blockage, and different variety of services, as well as this really cool shot at the end with the rack focus. So this next sequence here is right around when Eddie starts to talk, and we'll chat about that once we get an opportunity to listen to it again.
Shoes since I was 11 years old. Started shining shoes in the neighborhood shoe repair shop. Well, I most enjoy the finished product, seeing the joy and the happiness on a person's face when you fix a pair of shoes that they may have had for 5 or 10 years and they feel just like new when they put them on after receiving them from you.
Okay, so the second sequence is Eddie talking, and this is by far one of the most powerful lines, and that's why I wanted to have it as the first piece in the video, where he talks about, I've been fixing shoes, you know, in the neighborhood shoe shop since I was, you know, really young, and now he's been doing it for 30 years. So he's got a lot of passion and pride in what he does. And then one of the really cool things, if you can do it, is ultimately getting shots of the person that is speaking. So I was really fortunate where we were filming that day, so I got Eddie in his normal uniform, and I was getting some different shots of him using this first machine, and then this machine here where he's, you know, trimming the edge of the sole. So while he's talking, you see him working, and that brings more context into the situation. It's just more powerful if you can do that. Not every situation you'll be able to, however, if you can, it's something really powerful in your video. So as he was talking, he was kind of walking through, and I did all these different sequences, you know, kind of the beginning, middle, end. So here you can see the first thing is he pulls this up, and then now he stamps it, and now I have it in a couple different angles, and this is what's happening with the machine. So with some different cutaways and different angles, I'm able to really illustrate how that machine works. And the same thing was really applied to this next one as well. Another thing too that you'll notice about the video since the beginning is kind of the ambient sounds of the machines. Now at the time I was using a Rode VideoMic Pro, and it's a great on-camera mic that you can use to get those warm sounds for your ambient stuff. And this was a perfect project to do that with because there's really distinctive sounds. You know, when you're dealing with clients where, you know, they do consulting, so there's paper rustling and things like that, and then there's other things going on in the background, it may be more challenging. With this, they're very strong sounds, so it's very powerful to kind of have those at a little bit lower level, but you can still hear them. It makes the viewer really feel that they're a part of the process, and they really can feel like they're there. So again, I'm using those different angles, and then it goes back to Eddie. So we'll kind of pick up right here, and we'll go through the next sequence with Joe.
We take a lot of pride in our work. When you leave with me, our team is going to do whatever it takes and make you happy. Whether it's a $40 pair or a $500 pair of shoes, we're going to put that same pride and hard work into the shoes. We care for them as much as we care for the $1,000 pair of shoes.
I believe you need three things.
Okay, so that was the next sequence with Joe, and I can tell you that his interview was a little more challenging. The thing about his interview was he was really nervous, and he kind of was stumbling over his words. So that's why it's really important to give some positive reinforcement, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. I had to chop this up quite a bit, but kind of walking him through it, telling him what we wanted to hear, telling him what we liked, and reiterating on the things that he was saying that was good helped this go really well in the editing process. It was a little more challenging, but if you can walk him through it and be positive, it'll be less stressful for you in the editing. But ultimately what he was saying was very powerful. He was talking about it doesn't matter whether we have a $10 pair of shoes or a $10,000 pair of shoes, we're going to put the same amount of care into each one. And while he's saying that, I'm using these visuals to really illustrate, you know, that. So he said the $10,000 pair of shoe, and you can see this one. It looks great, it looks expensive, so that was ideally the best thing to put there. And then I, you know, have a couple different sequences here, both a variety of different angles to kind of illustrate what's going on. And then with the interview itself, along with Eddie's, the way that I framed it was I framed it obviously in a documentary type of setting. If I could have done it over, I would have positioned him a little bit more to the camera so his face was a little bit more opened up. But the way that I designed it was I framed and positioned everything with the shoe racks and the stitching machines in the background, because these are some of the cooler pieces of machinery that they have. Now I also moved these racks and stacked them with boots in the back because there's this massive cage in the background and it looks really horrible. So I moved those to cover that up, but also add a little bit more context to the scene. And then with some color grading, I created this kind of darker look to it in this vignette. And you know, the lighting and the exposure is a little bit higher right here, so it kind of illuminates him, and everything else is nice and soft in the background. So moving along with this, we'll go to the next sequence, and this is where I introduce Carol into the video, and he is the owner. So I'm going to do it right about here is where he starts.
Quality job. You need quality materials. You know, we hand grade our own leather. We're directly involved with the tannery, and we make sure our leather and our rubber is top notch. You need teamwork, and you need quality, lifelong craftsmanship care, because it's an art. Someone has to care about it, take personal in order for it to work.
Okay, so again, between Joe's spot and Carol's spot, I did a little bit of power of pausing where I spaced things out. I showed another couple sequences, and then Carol's voice comes in right about here, and he talks about the quality materials. What you need to be a great craftsman is quality materials. You need people that care. And when he's doing that, I'm explaining and showing different people going through that process of them caring, of them, you know, polishing the stuff, buffing the things. And then here's the material shot of him explaining that. And then as I go a little bit more, he talks about you need people that are lifelong craftsmen. So now I showed a variety of different people. So I got one shot here, another shot of the guy on the stitching machine, another guy buffing. So I'm showing a variety of different individuals working in their own stations and being specialized and having pride in what they're doing. And like this particular shot, he was smiling, which is great. I mean, this is ultimately what you want. Emotion trumps anything. So I was walking around, taking shots. I'd be at station to station, and I said something that made him laugh, and we were just joking around a little bit. Now, most of these guys actually don't speak very good English, so there was a little bit of a language barrier, but I just was goofing with them, and I got a nice little smirk. So when I got that, one of the most important things is when you get that, a smirk, a smile, a laugh, 3 things that you really need to understand. You need to be locked down. That means solid on your monopod or whatever tool you're using. You need to have everything in focus. You need to have the composition right. And of course, you need to have the record button recording. I think that goes without saying. But ultimately, those things are really critical when you get those emotional shots. And then here, when he talked about being craftsmen and the attention to detail, he was kind of reiterating on that. There I'm showing something that has a lot of detail and, you know, skill involved. And another shot of the guy actually using it. So those sequences tie together really well. Just those 2 shots tie in. And right about here is where we left off. So we'll start here and we'll go over through the next part.
Kind of take personal in order for it to work.
When it's all said and done, you know, a lot of people will really appreciate the quality and the job and the effort that I put into doing what I do. And that's what's most important to me.
We take the most pride in.
Okay, so this next part was with Eddie, and because he had such a powerful spot in the beginning, I wanted to include him in this for him to really illustrate what his pride in, you know, what he's passionate about. So I used this sequence right in between here before I went into Eddie. And basically with this particular one, I had him do this stuff several times. This is a sequence where I really wanted to nail down. Most of the other stuff that I've shown was kind of it's happening and I was floating around as quickly as I could. But this one I had him do multiple times. I had him take it on, put it on, take it off, put it on again. And with this actual thing here where he put it in, you can really only do this once, but I had him take it off a couple different times so I could get this hammer smashed to it. Now the thing is with the hammer is pretty much once you do it, once you knock it in there once, it's pretty much done. You don't need to hit it several times. However, with the filming, I had him do it several times. And this particular shot, I'm actually on a monopod and I'm kind of tilting it back and forth and his head's moving a little, so I'm creating more of a reveal shot, and I'm also using some blockage so the viewer's eye goes right here. It just is drawn to this particular space. And then here he's slamming it, and then obviously goes back to Eddie, and I put it on him to kind of illustrate the power of what he's saying. And then this shot here, I actually was using a slider and I did a push-in effect to it. Now, you can do this 2 different ways where it's out of focus and then goes in focus. One way is to start it in focus and pull it backwards. Another way is to put it in focus and then pull it back and then push it forward. And I talk about this in the stabilization training, so you guys can reference that. And I show you exactly how to do that. But that's ultimately the technique I used to get this particular shot. And then I used another shot with the stitching to kind of illustrate that. And right here is a great sequence that I put together that really tied into exactly what Carol is saying. Now we're going to go to that right now so you can see it its entirety, and then we'll backpedal a little and I'll explain it.
Pride in taking a damaged.
I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Here we go.
We take the most pride in taking a damaged, worn article that someone might have thought was hopeless and making it look basically brand new. And when I give it back to them or mail it back to them, they're absolutely shocked at how good it looks. And this happens day in and day out.
Okay, so This is the last line. And typically what I do is I have the owner say the last line about what they're passionate about what they're prideful. So then the viewer has something that they're leaving with that is compelling to them about the why component. So he said what they're most prideful about is taking a damaged or worn article. So then I had this great shot of this guy basically taking apart this shoe. And this is what it comes in. It's really, disheveled, and it's all ruined, and it looks really raggedy. And they turn it around and make it look like it's brand new. So this is a really close close-up shot to kind of show the texture and the grittiness of this worn shoe. So with this particular shot, what I did was I got behind an actual rack and I put some boots on each side so I could draw the viewer's attention on what's going on. So this is another part of the sequence where he's ripping the bottom of the sole off. Another thing that it does too is it kind of doesn't show this junk, this stuff in the background. Otherwise, if I didn't have this boot here, it would show this and it would be kind of distracting. Then when Carol kind of transitions to, we make it look like new, then I showed a shoe that is pretty much at the final stages of being completed, where you see he's kind of polishing it, he's buffing everything out, and it looks, fantastic in relation to this compared to this. So I really wanted to show the contrast with those different shots. And then the last kind of line that Carol says is, this is something that we do all the time. And that's pretty much how I ended the video. So I hope this deconstruct shot by shot is giving you some additional insight into what my thought process was with the shots, how I got them, and the overall sequencing and the overall vision with the video. Like I mentioned earlier, the focus was craftsmanship and pride, to kind of increase that speed of trust so that people that are out of state would ship their shoes to the Austin Shoe Hospital. Through the power of strategic partnerships, I was able to create this awesome video for the Austin Shoe Hospital. And it's been an incredibly successful project for both them and me. In fact, it's led to a huge amount of clients, both directly and indirectly. After the first video was completed, I was able to do additional videos for the Austin Shoe Hospital, creating an array of service-based videos from their Austin and Houston facilities. And I continue to maintain a professional relationship with them. I work with them on commercials, events, and different programs that they're running. I hope this video and the explanation of my problem-solving strategies and creative solutions have been helpful to you. And I genuinely hope that my approach to this particular project can help guide you in the success of your next video.